Homeless, Dan Collier.
Mr. Toastmaster, ladies and gentlemen, would you like to know how to divide a room of people into two different camps very quickly? Show them this sign and ask them how many of them give money to the people they see holding this sign. And I guarantee you'll divide that room into two different camps of people. There, but for the grace of God, go I. That phrase is credited to John Bradford in the 1500s in England. Now, John said this as he was observing prisoners walking by in chains. Ironically, God's grace did not last very long with John Bradford because he was burned at the stake for his Protestant beliefs. I'm going to tell you about a homeless man that I know. His name is Ken. And I've been curious about what makes somebody homeless. How do they arrive at that state in their life for my entire life? And so I have had the opportunity of sharing a slice of pizza with Ken over the years to learn his story, to ask questions about something I have always been curious about. And here is Ken's story. You know, Ken was born to what I think to be a typical middle-class American family, a loving mother and father, both college graduates, 3 siblings, a stable household. And Ken was probably known as the class clown. I made that up from hearing from him, but I think he was the type. He had a sense of humor, he was a little bit out of control, and from the stories he told, well, here's one for example. 10 years old, he came home bruised and bloody, his face a mess. His mother is hysterical, cleaning him up. Who did this to you? You know what he said? He said, Mom, if you think my face looks bad, you should see the other guy's fist. That's the kind of humor that Ken has. Well, Ken went through school and didn't make it to graduation. He dropped out in 11th grade and decided that it just wasn't for him. How am I ever going to use these skills? They're a waste of time. This is a waste of time. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to learn construction. And sure enough, that's what he delved into, and tells me he was very good at it. Got jobs, no problem. But as I learned about Ken, I learned that he would constantly lose those jobs. He'd lose those jobs because the boss was a jerk. He'd lose those jobs because the alarm didn't go off. He'd lose those jobs because somebody stole his tools. He'd lose those jobs because his ride didn't pick him up. And on and on. Well, after a while, he had burned all the bridges in town and could no longer get construction work, even though he was very good at what he did. Well, he turned to restaurants and retail. But you know something? That wasn't worth his time. I'm not going to work for minimum wage, he says. My time is much more valuable than that. So he refused to work for restaurants and retail. Well, he progressed through his life, and now that he had no funds, he couldn't pay rent. But he's resourceful. He's outgoing. I've discovered he's a very pleasant person to be around. And so he depended on friends. He would trade, I'll fix up your house and stay at your house for a while. Well, that's temporary, right? And over time, the welcome wears out with that friend, and he moves on to another friend. And before he knows it, he's trading friends who have houses for friends who don't, who are more like him. Well, you say, what about family? Right? He grew up with this middle-class family. Won't they come to his rescue? Absolutely. He moved back in with Mom and Dad. And he told his Mom and Dad, I'm here, I'll behave. And when he described the relationship, it sounded like fights. Fights over alcohol and drug use. Fights over lack of employment. Fights over not getting out of bed in the morning. And sure enough, after a couple of years of that, he had worn out his welcome with his Mom and Dad. Well, he's still resourceful. So he goes to one of his brothers, and they go into business together. And things didn't work out, the business didn't make it, but they had a good run for about a year. Auto mechanic, and he did well with that as well. He adapts instantly to anything new that comes into his life. Well, finished with that brother, went on to the other brother. After a couple years of working for that other brother, during which time, he tells me he was shuttled back and forth to work so that he would be there on time. 2 labor board cases against him because the employees just didn't get along with him very well. That relationship ended as well. In his last effort to stop himself from becoming homeless, he moved in with one of his brothers. But after about a year, the same pattern, the same habits surfaced with that brother that surfaced with his mom and dad. And that was over. Ken is now homeless on the streets of Ventura. Well, I get to chat with Ken from time to time, and I can never tell when he's on drugs or when he's straight. But one time he told me about the satellites that were following him. He told me about the voices that he hears in his head. Now, I'm pretty sure he was on drugs that day because the very next day he seemed sober and he denied anything about that. He also denied any efforts by me for him to seek medical attention. It's available, I said. I will get you the numbers. Denied it. Just enjoyed sitting there having a slice of pizza with me. But I continued my questioning. Now, Ken's kind of a funny guy, but he's in trouble with the police a lot of times. In fact, he's got epilepsy, and I said to him one time, "Are you affected by lights? Is that what causes the epilepsy?" He said, "Yes, especially blue flashing ones." Well, he had arranged a meeting for his father to come out and meet with him. And when he met with his father, as he was there, the police came and took him away because the bicycle he was on apparently was stolen. So that was his reunion with his father. Well, I must tell you that I do not give money to people who hold these signs on the street. I believe it contributes to the problem. I do not feed homeless people because I've discovered that when I do, they hang around the restaurant and scare away regular customers. I do contribute to every homeless cause that I can because I believe that the people in charge of those causes may have a solution. I certainly don't. I can't even solve it for one person. My younger brother can.